Hello guys! Mabuhay! Kumusta?
Today is construction day 82, and I'm going to go ahead and scoot down here just a little bit. So it's a big day today. They're starting the rendering of the house on the inside. So we're going to definitely bring you that update, and then a little more got completed in the pool. But had some really good comments regarding the seminar for the electric. Some of them was pretty funny. So stay tuned, guys. I guess that's worth watching our videos just to find out what that seminar entails, how long it's going to be. Do we actually have to go through it? Is there a test at the end? We just don't know. So we'll give you guys those updates. And then we got some weather coming in. We've been watching the weather every day. We've been so lucky with the weather, but it looks like there's a low pressure coming from the east. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and stop this update, and then I'm going to turn the camera to the ocean and show you our view today. All right, so you can see there is no ocean view at all. So the clouds are rolling in. There is a low pressure heading this way, so I think we're in for some rainy weather for the next 5 or 6 days, or at least that was what the weather report that we watched this morning said. So we'll see how that affects the guys with their construction, if we lose some time or not. But you know, they're working the rendering. So I'm guessing if it rains real hard, they're going to have to stop. But it's been a steady rain, not bad, but it's been a steady rain all day, and we'll see how that works out. And then the last update before we go up to the work site is to talk a little bit about the solar. I do have a third company coming next week, this high-end solar, and so we'll have 3 quotes. I think Wilma and I have got a pretty good education, and we're going to try to dial in. Obviously, we have to see the quotes and the costs, net metering or not net metering, how big the battery backup needs to be, hybrid system, off-grid. You know, there's so much to think about. So we're going to take our time, and like I said, it's not in our budget, so we're going to have to find the money elsewhere. So what else in the project that we cannot do to pay for the solar? So we'll all have to put all that together. I'm going to start dialing in on the return on investment, and I'll share that as well. So once I get the quotes, I'll put together a return on investment, at least from what I understand today, and I'll bring it to you guys, and you know, we can discuss it back and forth. But let's get up to the work site and see what's going on. All right, so with the guys being short-handed, we just got one guy working on sifting the sand. So here is the raw sand, and they cover it with tarps to keep it dry. And then we have Jernell here. Everybody knows Jernell. He's been here from day one of land clearing, and he lives right behind us. And we featured his home with the called the native style home. So what he's doing is, since they're rendering the whole inside of the house, they need a whole lot of fine sand. So just one guy at the station. You can see all the pebbles that's coming from the raw sand, and he's just basically bringing that raw sand to the screen. Looks like he does 3 shovelfuls at a time, and then he'll go ahead and rock this back and forth, get all the pebbles to stay on top, the fine sand below, and then that's what they use to mix with the concrete and water for the actual rendering mix. So again, it's very much labor intensive, but necessary. All right, so you guys seen it before. You guys know the technique of rendering. So they're starting to render the walls today inside the house. So this is really the first part of rendering, where they throw the cement, that sand and concrete mix up against the hollow block, and then they let it sit for just a little while, like a half hour or so. And then the second step is just to smooth it out, and you can see it's still rough. So that is the first step. This is the second step. So after about a half hour, 45 minutes, they come through, and you can see they have their snap lines to make sure they have it the correct thickness. And you can see it's pretty thick. So here's the hollow block, and you can see that's a solid inch thick of rendering. So this is the second step. And then that sits, again, about another hour. And then here in the kitchen area, this is step 3. So what they do here is they really smooth it out. And again, they have their snap lines, so they keep it nice and straight. And then what they do is they basically have plastic soda bottles with water. And I'll try to capture this all on video, but they'll go ahead and put water on this a little at a time, and then they really smooth it out. So this is the third step. And then they let this dry, and then when it comes to the point, after they get the entire house done, they'll come through and they'll put another coat on here. They call it a skim coat, and it's a different type of cement. It's very thin, almost like the consistency of paint. And they'll come through and they'll put another layer of that skim coat on top of this. Let that dry, and then they'll work it and get it nice and smooth to be ready to be painted. So the good news is, you can see here, this is the kitchen area. So big difference, right guys, from the hollow block walls to smoothing out with the rendering step. So I'm going to do my best today. It's been raining all day today, and it looks like we're going to get rain, at least according to the weather. We've been so lucky with weather. And a few times, I would say in the last 60 days, the 4 times it rained up here, it always seems to rain during their lunch, midday, which is always good. So it rains a little bit during their lunch, and then 1 o'clock comes around, and the sun comes back out again. So there has been a few days of drizzle, but nothing major at all. Basically rains here every night. But during the day, we've been very lucky. But it appears like the next 5 or 6 days, I think there's a low pressure system coming from the east, heading towards the Mindanao and eastern Visayas. So I think we're going to get rain here, at least on and off, for like the next 5 or 6 days. So it's going to be interesting to see how that slows up the progress here. You can see there's quite a bit of puddling, and it's a steady drizzle right now. I'm looking off a little southeast, and I can see a little bit of blue skies over there. So hopefully this afternoon it clears up a little bit. But we'll see how that delays over the next week or so. But definitely that's a real good sign. Willem and I were very happy to see this morning when we got here, and then I'll do my best to show you guys all the steps as they perform the rendering inside the house today. Okay, so a quick pool update, show you guys some progress here on the steps and bench. So they went ahead and rendered the bottom of the 6-foot bench. So they got that done yesterday. So all those hollow blocks are covered up. And then they got the rest of the rebar in that was not in yesterday. So you can see the rebar here on each step going up. And then rebar here in the bench. And they did fill up the bench area with the gravel. So now they're building the forms. And, look how thick this is going to be. So it's several inches just to get up to that block, and then another 4 inches. So we want to make sure it gets up to this mark right here, which is going to be 40 centimeters to the water line. So in the center of the skimmer is the water line. So this is the water line. Then we measure down 40 centimeters is where the top of the seat will be. So the water lands basically chest level. It's going to be just below my chest. And then obviously Wilma's shorter, so we had to make sure it was kind of like in the middle. Yeah, it's going to be 40 centimeters high to the water line. But they're starting to do the forms. So they got 2 forms in here. Now, a viewer asked about this. This is looks like a large step, and it is, but keep in mind we're going to put cement on top of that. So that's going to be formed up like this, and we'll make sure it's high enough to make sure that all the steps are the same height. So that'll be, I don't know, maybe 6 inches of concrete. So it's going to go up pretty high, and then obviously that'll make the step much shorter. But that was a good call out. But you can see that they're ready to go here. So one more form here, one more form there, maybe a little bit more gravel in there, and then they'll be ready to pour. All right, so Vince did get a chance to render this. It was a rough rendering here yesterday, but it was still hollow block on each of the sides. So we went ahead and got that done and smoothed it all out on both sides. And then you can see the 1-inch pipes. That'll be for the water feature. So eventually they'll punch through here midway, 1/3 in and 1/3 in, halfway down for the water feature spray. So one thing I didn't show on yesterday's video is how we're going to tile this. So it's going to be the same tile that we're going to use for the pool. So again, it'll be the blue tile 30 centimeters down. It'll follow through the blue tile. The blue tile will go up to the top of the water feature, come across, come down, and then continue on. One row of the blue. And then, as you guys know, the second level, so at 30 centimeters, will be that mosaic. Will be the same as the coping on top, as well as the steps. So at 30 centimeters down, there will be one row of the mosaic, and that'll follow the line of the pool, second level, go up under the blue, because there'll be blue on top here. So the mosaic will come down, turn, go up the mosaic, come across, come down, and then continue on as the second level. Just to give a little color here in the water feature. And then the rest of it here in the center will be all blue. That'll come down and then, match down here. But we will have the running line of the mosaic at the second level to continue up as the second level, and then down and across. So we think that's going to look real good. All right, so this is a big milestone for Wilma and I. So yesterday they still had this section over here to complete. But the main beam is really the main look of the style of house, right? They call it American modern home or California modern. People call it different things. But of course, the glass is a big part of it as well. But this main beam is a big milestone for us to get completed. Now, obviously, it still needs to be rendered and all that. But you can see now, and I'll zoom in, and this take a pan all the way across. And I don't know how it shows up on camera, but I'll take a look at it in the playback. But it's a big accomplishment to get this completed. So we're very much looking forward to seeing this come out once it's painted. Okay, so there's quite a few moving pieces here at once. So first of all, they brought the cement mixer right into the main room, and they're mixing the cement and just dumping it here on the floor. Now, I think I've told you in previous videos, it's one bag of that fine sand and then one bag of cement. So that's a very high concentration of cement, and it's very smooth because it's that sifted sand that you just saw Janelle do. But there's a new term here, and I asked about 5 times to make sure I got the name right because it's Pacquiao. So I said, is it like Manny Pacquiao, like the last name of the fighter? And they said yes. So what these guys are doing is, for this step of rendering the house inside and out, they're getting paid not by the day, they're getting paid by the job. And what they call that is Pacquiao. So what happens is the contractor comes and measures the square meters of all the hollow block inside the house and outside the house, and gives them a going price, a one set price of whatever that is for the job. And what that does is obviously motivates them, because if they get it done, say 5 days as compared to 10 days, they'll make double the money. So if if it takes them longer, they get paid less because they have to share that one cost that the contractor is going to give the group. So they have to work together as a team and get it done. So it's really up to them. And you can see that a lot's been done, and they started at 8 a.m. And we do have some absenteeism here, but a lot in the main room is done. And then I'll even go through here real quick. You can see in the master, the back wall leading into the master closet, that's been basically completed as well. So the guys are definitely moving. Now, I guess you can argue the point that the quality of the work could suffer. I guess that's a possibility. But the way the contractor explained it to me is, if that's the case, then when they do the skim coat and the final sanding and smoothing for paint, it would take them longer to do that. So it wouldn't be in their best interest to do it incorrectly. So I guess time will tell on that, but the guys are definitely moving. And that's a new term that I learned here in the Philippines. It's called Pacquiao. So if you guys heard of that as well, or if you built a home in the Philippines, and let me know if you paid the crew one set price to render or paid them by the hour. Be curious to see what other people has done. All right, so here's a good example of Daniel, where I mentioned they have a soda bottle with water. And what they do is they squirt the water on the cement that's been dried for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. And then they just put a little more water on it. And then his technique is just to smooth it out. So look how quickly it goes from being very rough to very smooth. So if you guys remember, just before lunch, they just had this bottom section down, and now it's about an hour and a half after lunch, and they got the whole top section done. So I kind of like this pay by the job, because they are moving. We got some more done over there. There's Dino. So it looks like he's using a different technique. He's not using a water bottle. He's using a sponge. So he's got a 5-gallon pail of water, and then he dips the sponge in the water, and he uses the sponge. So that's his technique. You can see how quickly it goes from rough to smooth in just a short amount of time. And again, I'll show you how thick it is. I mean, that's thick. Here's my finger. So it's very thick. It's got to be 2 inches right there, at least 2 inches, maybe a little more. So very thick.